Thanks for taking time to line up in the trenches with Dave Lapham, brought to you by First Star Logistics, as always, coming from our outstanding studios. And we had an opportunity as training camp gets underway to catch up with the architect of the Cincinnati Bengals. He controls personnel. He is Duke Tobin. He has done an incredible job putting together a roster of football players that is talented and extremely deep. It is going to be very, very competitive to make the roster with the Cincinnati Bengals. If you roster in Cincinnati, that's an accomplishment. He's got superstars. He's got players on the rise. He's got players in the early stages of the prime of their career and on the back end of the prime of their career and everything in between. Done just a phenomenal job of it. And Duke Tobin talks about how it happens with his scouts, the process of putting together a football team, talks about the competitive nature of the National Football League, what you have to try to do to win in the NFL and win in the AFC North and win in the AFC in general. It's going to be good football teams that don't make the playoffs in the American Football Conference. That's just the nature of the beast. So Duke Tobin gives us kind of a little bit of an understanding and reasons why the Bengals will be in the playoffs. Very special honor right now. Guest joining us is everything you always wanted to know about the Bengals, but we're afraid to ask, but we're going to ask. This man knows it all. Duke Tobin. Duke, we appreciate you joining us once again, and it's always informative and always a lot of fun. Appreciate your time.
You bet, Lap. Let's get at it.
So here we go. Joe Burrow. How close are you to signing Joe Burrow, Duke?
I'm not going to have any comment on that, Lap, just like yesterday.
I hear you.
You know, he's an important piece, and so that's the best I can say.
Do you think the negotiations are proceeding according to a time frame that you anticipate?
I don't have any idea. I don't have any update for the folks that want an update. I've got none. It's unfortunate, but that's the way it is. He's an important guy, and we're treating him just like that. And,
no question.
And that's where we are.
There are multiple pieces to the puzzle, as there always are, but man, this guy is a massive piece of the puzzle. There is no question. You know, I do respect his ability, though, to compartmentalize. I mean, you know, he's like all football right now. You know, people are going to take care of that part of the business part of things, and that's going to go on between his people and the Bengals management. But now it's time to play football, and Joe Burrow is all about football, and he can compartmentalize and focus like none I've ever seen.
Yeah, you know, that's the one thing that we'll know is he'll be ready to go, and he'll have people around him ready to go, and that's important for that position, and he's demonstrated the ability to do that in a big way, and so there's no concerns there.
Right, none whatsoever. The thing about him is, and you played the position, the quarterback position, he sees sideline to sideline and, you know, line of scrimmage to goal line and where everybody is, and has an ability to not only see it, but it burns into his memory bank. He is extremely special that way, isn't he?
That's what makes great quarterbacks is they process quickly. And they're prepared. They take the time to prepare themselves for what they're going to see, and they know what to do when they see it. And so the preparation is a big component. But the speed in visualizing something and reacting to it, that's what makes the really special guys special. And he's got that. He's prepared, he sees it quick, and he has answers. And then he's got the ability to do it. You know, you want fast processors, you want processors that are right consistently, and then you want accurate passers. And he's got all those things.
And he's got weapons. There's no question about it. I mean, the big three remains a very big three. Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd. But it looks like to me if you keep 6 wide receivers, just to pick a number, the competition for 4 through 6 is about as good as I remember seeing. I mean, there's a lot of good football players fighting for those spots.
Yeah. We've got a number of spots that we need guys to take hold of, step up, show that they can be relied on. And we're going to need guys. We're going to need replacements at some point. You don't go through an NFL season without relying on somebody, whether it's in the wideout core or the tight end core or the wideout or the offensive line or on the defensive line or in the defensive backfield. You're going to need people to step up and perform as starters, even though they don't come out of camp as a starter. And so that's what's exciting about this time of year. We get to really look at the young guys. We want our young guys to have success early, so they start building the confidence that they know that they can play in this league and that their skills translate. And that's what's neat about the preseason. That gives you a chance to really see what those guys are going to be.
Yeah, you always have young guys in the funnel, ready to step up. There's some kind of a role for them. Some may have a bigger role than others, but everybody's always trying to expand their role. But man, I'll tell you, Duke, you guys have done an unbelievable job. I mean, not just within the Bengals, but other people around the league that I've known for a few years and communicate with. They're like, I'll tell you what, Duke Tobin and his folks have put together an unbelievably deep roster at multiple position groups. And I mean, it's talked about around the league how deep this football team is. You've done a great job.
Well, we've got great scouts, and they set the table for us. They're the ones that identify the right ones and steer us away from the ones that aren't quite right for the Bengals. And then, when we layer in all the other people that start to evaluate these guys, we feel like we get a really good result. And when our draft board's put together, we've got some clear guys that we would like to get to in the draft. In some years, those guys last to you and you feel really good about it. And we felt really good about the last few drafts. Were guys that we had targeted as Bengal fits were there for us. And so you need a little bit of luck, but mostly you need good boots on the ground. And our scouts are really good at what they do.
So couple that with what you've done in veteran free agency. How similar, how different is the process of identifying a collegiate prospect as opposed to going out and trying to get somebody that's a fit from a veteran free agency standpoint?
The biggest difference is you're not projecting anymore. Yeah, the projection is gone and the guy is in the NFL and you have NFL tape to look at and you can see how he can perform. Now you might visualize improvement, but it's no longer a projection. Is the guy going to be up to the jump in competition? So it's a little easier on the free agent side. It's much harder in the money, and there's competition for these guys. But what we've really had success with is looking at guys that fit what we do, demonstrate they can do what we want, and then try to get them signed. And we've got a good team, and people want to sign up, and the money's always got to be right, but when it is right, we've got a pretty good chance of getting them.
What's that like in when you're soliciting veteran free agents and it's like, yeah, I want to come play with Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals. I mean, you can't sign everybody, obviously, but to be in that type of a scenario has to be pretty darn nice.
Well, the money has to work, so
yeah,
it starts there, and all things equal, you like to believe that they'll come up and choose you because of the situation we're in and the team we have and the culture that Zach's built, and the word of mouth that comes from our players to other players about what a great place this is to have your career. And so those are all positives. The money has to work, and if the money doesn't work, none of that other stuff you ever really get to.
So the continuity in the coaching staff amongst key players and a bunch of players really, and the synergy between the staff and players and staff and all those good things, continuity. And then I think of this other word, trust, and the continuity and trust seem to go hand in hand. I mean, over time, you build more and more trust. And that's the one thing you mentioned, the culture, but that's huge. But boy, when you have respect and trust for your coaches and your teammates, that's high cotton, man. You're in a good spot.
Yeah, I mean, NFL players, the number one thing they want is people that can help them succeed and put them in a position to maximize their talents. There's a Paul Brown saying that winning makes believers of us all,
Mm-hmm.
and it does, whether it's the chicken or the egg. But you got to have the belief in each other before you can start to win, and then once you start to win, then that really starts to steamroll. But the number one thing NFL players want is they want to believe that what they're being asked to do maximizes their talent, and we've got a staff that really does that with our guys.
The coaching staff is definitely a source of motivation, but it seems like a good percentage of this football team is highly self-motivated and highly confident. But not, self-motivation is great, but the confident thing, not overdone, to the point where, I got all the answers, I don't need you, and all that sort of thing. Is that something that you look for too? You look for, does the guy have that inner desire? Does he have that burn to be great?
Absolutely. I mean, we like guys from winning programs, and we like guys that have had a lot of success. And whether it's coming from another NFL team that was a winner, or college programs that had really good culture, and it's kind of natural to them then when they walk into your locker room and see how you guys operate, and it just really fits. It's not a shock to their system that people get along, and people are rooting for each other, and people are having fun with each other, and people are actually enjoying the grind of the game. That doesn't shock guys who come from good programs. And so that's something we look at. You got to have the ability level. You got to have the appropriate size, strength, speed, quickness. You got to be able to do the physical things, but beyond that, it's nice to get guys that are used to winning and want to be around and understand what it's like to be in a winning locker room.
In this day and age of salary cap and how the NFL has exploded, I mean, the economics in the National Football League now, it's mind-boggling money. Is it tougher to build a football team, or is it tougher to keep that football team together, keep that football team intact, or are they equally difficult?
It's you never really get the offseason anymore. The offseason kind of trundles along, and people have success. They want to be rewarded for it. That's natural. That's human nature, and we want our people to have success. When we bring them in, we have a vision for every player that's on our team right now, all 90 of them. And that vision is for all 90 to have success. And so we want the same thing, they're wanting as individuals. We want for our football team. And, we don't hold that against anybody. They feel like they're good and they want to be compensated for it. It's on us to try to make it work. It doesn't always work there. Sometimes the pie is gone, and that's just the nature of the design of how our league is right now. But I don't know if one is harder than the other, Dave. They both take time, they both take effort, and you can't go to sleep on either one of them.
Right, good point there. So this football team, I mean, in the last draft, you drafted so much speed. I mean, on the back end in particular in the draft, but you have speed at your edge, speed and quickness at the edge rush people. Linebackers can run, your back end can run, your wide receivers can run. I mean, you got your tight end, Irv Smith Jr. can run. Everybody can run. And it's not just speed, but it's functional football speed. I mean, if it's just speed, everybody just go out and recruit, the world-class sprint athlete. They got to have functional football speed. And it looks like this group of guys really do. Are you excited about how fast this football team is?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing it, on the field, playing real football. What we do in the off season doesn't give guys like me a lot of insight into how these guys are going to develop over time. But the stuff that we start doing here in a week or so, does it shows, okay, well, he matches up. He can play on this level. A lot of people have the ability. What separates the really good ones are the ones that can process it quickly, understand the scheme of things, and can play within the scheme and play fast, and not be out of position. The slow guy that takes the right step is going to get there before the fast guy that takes the wrong step. And so, more important than just speed is instinct and understanding. And that's something that, our coaches have been great at getting these guys to understand what to do so they can play fast, so they can use the speed they have. There's a lot of track guys that time fast. When you put their college tape on, they don't play fast. And we don't have a ton of use for that. We need guys, who can run that play fast. And that's what separates the good ones from just the track athletes.
So at the beginning of last season to the beginning of this season, there are 8 returning starters defensively, 10 offensively. But the one position offensively, it might be a starter that started at another position, at the right tackle position, and then Orlando Brown Jr. at the left tackle position. Well, how do you see that right tackle position? How do you see that competition that's going on there, Duke? And I guess it's a real good thing that Jonah passed that physical, and he's not one of the 3 guys that was on the PUP list at this juncture, and he's able to compete right away for it.
Yeah, we got a lot of belief in Jonah. I'm not going to handicap any position on our team. I just haven't seen, you can't really judge offensive linemen until you get going. And and we feel like we've got some players that can play well and effectively for us, and we'll see. But it's way too early and I'm not going to try to predict. We know what Jonah can do. He's played a lot of football for us, and we're very comfortable with Jonah Williams and understand that he's versatile and he's tough, he's reliable, and he's effective. So, we anticipate that continuing, but, we're not going to handicap it in advance.
Sure. And looking at talking about the roster depth as a former lineman, I'm looking at the offensive line. There's a bunch of guys that have NFL experience that have proven they can perform and perform well at the National Football League level. I mean, that's a deep position group for you, isn't it?
A lot of guys early in their career, a lot of guys in the prime of their career, a lot of guys that still have potential to improve and elevate their play. And so we'll see, how they come along from last year to this year.
And on the back end defensively, that's the 3 spots where, you got 8 returning starters and then 3. But, Cam Taylor-Britt basically was the starter down the stretch. But the 2 safeties, obviously that's a new dynamic. You lose a couple of very highly intelligent football IQ leader type guys, but you got people that can play and obviously play at a very high level as well. How do you feel about the competition at safety, Duke?
Well, we'll see. The communication on the back end is a huge thing, and the ones that communicate the best and execute their assignment the best will be the ones that play the best. They all have the physical talent to play and be effective football players. And again, one thing our coaches do a great job of is making sure they understand the scheme, giving them what they can handle, and making sure that they're going to be in the right position. And then. But we'll see. It's hard to replace veterans that understood our scheme and understood our system. But we think we got some good options. And again, that's what camp and preseason is for, is to get those things underway.
No question. So the AFC, the conference itself, unbelievably competitive. There are so many good football teams. The quarterback position. 15 out of the 16 projected starters in the AFC, former first-round draft picks. And then Jimmy Garoppolo is a second-round pick. So, everybody wants their Joe Burrow. Everybody wants their guy at the quarterback position. It's become who can throw the football. And nobody throws the football better than the Cincinnati Bengals do, and it's that type of a scenario. But, man, it is so uber competitive in the AFC with respect to all of these quarterbacks that can play at such a high level in the same conference. The imbalance at the quarterback position in the AFC and the NFC is pretty dramatic right now.
Well, we don't control any of that. We can just control what we do. I've been in the NFL a long time. I've never had a game where I thought this is an easy game. It doesn't matter who you're playing.
Right.
Every team is good. Every team can beat you, and you have to play your best to win every Sunday. And so, we're focused internally on ourselves. We don't control, other teams and their personnel, but we feel good about where we're going to be, and that's the important part, and that's where the focus is right now.
Knock on wood, Joe Burrow gets to practice and take snaps the entire training camp, which would be a very successful training camp for Joe to be able to participate fully and get off to a fast start. Because 2 division games to start off the season, the AFC North, I believe, is the best conference in football, in pro football. Go to Cleveland and play Baltimore and Cincinnati the first 2 games. Rubber meets the road right away. So getting off to a fast start, taking care of the football, all those good things are vitally important, aren't they?
They are. We know those programs well, and our division doesn't go away. It hasn't yet. I don't anticipate it dwindling. So those are hard fought games, and they always will be. And we got a ton of respect for the teams in our division. And job one is to try to win that division. That gives you a home game. It's supposed to give you a home game. I guess we ended up getting a home game last year by winning the division. But anyway, that's the best path to a home game, and then you're set up, for your playoff run. But beating those 3 teams is not easy, and it's job number 1 for us.
So take us through what's going on now in your personnel department. You do such a masterful job of running. You guys are meeting now, and everybody's okay. We've seen we've unwrapped the presents a little bit. We've seen them at mini camp and OTAs and that type of thing. Now we get to see them in training camp with pads on and see what they really look like in preseason games, etc. What kind of a process is there left from that evaluation as opposed to getting after the collegiate prospects, or is it always overlapped and intertwined because it's year round for everybody, I guess?
It is. Our scouts do a good job of multitasking on this stuff, and they'll be very soon starting to visit college campuses. At the same time, they'll be keeping up with our practices and our preseason games. And then there's a time that they'll come back and we'll evaluate the rest of the league, getting ready for cut downs. They all have assignments and teams to focus on there. And then we'll have our cut down meetings. We'll cut down our team. If there's guys we think can help us, we'll try to acquire them. We'll build a practice squad, and but our guys multitask pretty well. And coming up in a week or so, they'll see a few practices, and then they'll start hitting the road, and they'll be on these college campuses, working on next year's draft too. But you got to have guys that multitask, and that's what makes them really well-rounded scouts, understanding what's playing in the league, so you can compare that to what's coming into the league. And if you don't get one of those aspects, you lose a little perspective on what's available and what's actually playing. And so our guys have a really good feel for what is making a roster in this league, what level of talent, and how hard or easy is it to upgrade that level of talent with what's available in the college game. So, we try to keep a foot in each bucket, so we stay current.
Your dad, in my opinion, was iconic. I mean, a legend in the National Football League. Bill Tobin was as good at what he did as anybody in the National Football League, and you benefited by absorbing all of that outstanding excellence that your dad had. How much on a daily basis, when you're doing your tasks, does it hit you that, man, that's just the way my dad taught me to do it?
Well, I was born on third base for this job, and that's what I lived my whole life. I can't remember a year going by where I'm not living and dying based on Sundays and what's happening there, and
Right.
And living and dying on personnel and why somebody's good and why somebody is not good. And it's just I was very fortunate to have the experiences I have to be working in this role. And I agree with you. My dad, I've never run across a finer scout than he. And the years he's worked here, he's been a linchpin for us and been incredibly insightful in a lot of the really good players that we've had. So, and I think he's rubbed off on some of our other scouts because they were fortunate enough to be around him when he was doing the job. And so he's influenced a lot of people around the league, not just me. I just lived it for 52 years.
So as we're talking a little bit of personnel, Joe Mixon redoes a deal with the Cincinnati Bengals. And, there's the coaching staff, his teammates, there's respect, and there's a value that they feel Joe Mixon provides the Cincinnati Bengals, obviously, to see what went on with respect to Joe from a contractual standpoint. You expect big year out of him?
I do. We know what we're going to get out of Joe. He's a motivated player that has great pride in the way that he goes about it, and great pride in the success that we've had. And he wanted to continue that, and we found something that works for everybody for that to happen, and that's great, But we know what we're going to get out of him. He's as competitive as they come. And he's going to show up on Sundays and Mondays and Thursdays whenever we play, and give us what he's got. And so we're fortunate to have him around.
So when you're building a football team, you're building the Cincinnati Bengals. What would you like people around the league, if you had to pick 2 or 3 words that you want people around the league to come to mind forefront when they're picturing the Cincinnati Bengals football team, what might those be?
You always want to be the team that others view as dangerous, as aggressive, as a team that can enforce their will on both sides of the ball. That's what you ultimately want. You want teams to worry about every position group you have. You want teams to have to cover the full field. You want teams to know that it's going to be hard. They're going to take away something that we don't want them to take away. You want to be smart. You want to be well coached, but you want to be dangerous, and you want to be feared, and you want to be able to impose your will in all 3 phases. And so when we're looking at guys, that's what we want. We want other teams to look at us and say, that's a problem, that's a problem, and that's a problem. And we want them to understand that we're going to be on the attack.
We talked about how competitive it is in the AFC North, how competitive it is in the AFC period. So obviously, the schedule is going to be tough no matter what, and you can't control the schedule. But like we talked about, you open up with a couple of division games. The bye week is fairly early, but after the bye week, boy, there's just that's a lot of tough football. In the division games seem to pair up 2 by 2 until the very end, at Pittsburgh, at Kansas City, then Cleveland at home. And at Pittsburgh, at Kansas City, that's a task. It's never easy. What do you think about the schedule? Or is it like, you know what?
I don't know. We got off the break last year, and we had a pretty tough road ahead of us, and I think we rolled through it. And so if you're going to be a good team, you're going to have to beat good teams, and you can't worry about the teams that are on the schedule. You got to worry about yourself. And we're a pretty tough opponent for the teams that are looking at their schedules as well. So
no doubt.
You do them one at a time. So
with Green Bay as the home opener in the preseason, you're going to work out against the Green Bay Packers again, the Wednesday before that Friday night game. What do you see are the biggest pros and benefits that you get from working out with another organization like that a couple of days before the preseason game?
I think it's important. You see your own guys every day. Our offensive line sees our defensive line every day, and it's nice to get to block somebody else, to get to compete against somebody else in a practice setting. It's fun for those of us that do our job to get a look at a different team and see how they're constructed and see what their players look like, and maybe that gives you a little more perspective on your own team. There's some camaraderie that goes with that. I know their staff is fantastic. I've got a ton of respect for a lot of their personnel guys. So it's a fun event for me personally, and I think it's a welcome break for some of our players to get to compete against somebody else.
Duke, when you're looking at a roster, I mean, what are the prime years of a National Football League career now? Because everybody's so much smarter about taking care of the players physically, and the careers are lengthening, but it's still so competitive and so darn hard to make it in the NFL. The average length of the career is still less than 4 years, but you got more guys maybe playing 10 years or more. So it's kind of an interesting, if you're good enough and you're allowed to take care of your body, and a lot of these organizations you can play, a very long time. I used to think, boy, the third year is so big. Okay, maybe they didn't start as a rookie, but they did start at the second year. Okay, was that a fluke, or can they continue to do it? I mean, I don't know. What do you look at as pivotal years in careers now, or has it changed so much that it really
every guy would be a little different, Lap. I do think it's important for players to have early success. Now, it doesn't have to be elite success or Pro Bowl success or leading the league in a category success, but some early success to build on really can catapult young players into long careers. And conversely, problems very early in the career, whether it's injuries or whether it's performance, that sometimes is very difficult to overcome. It can be overcome, but the best springboard is some early success to build on, whether it's in a backup role or a starting role, but some early success to where they can come into their second year knowing that they can do it and knowing what it takes to have some success. And I've always felt like the early success really, really can springboard, particularly guys that are come into the league in the middle rounds, late rounds. Those guys can really build on that.
Up front, real quick, again, with the offensive line, Orlando Brown Jr. has made a major impact right away. I mean, his personality, the way he approaches the game, how focused he is on the game of football, how intelligent he is about the game of football. That was one major acquisition there, wasn't it?
It was, and it might not have been one that we, believed was going to be an option for us. It became an option. We pivoted pretty quickly and tried to make the money work the best we could. And he obviously had interest in us, and he fit, something that we felt like we could use. And so far, he's been great. He's a great leader. Football means everything to him. And he's a great teammate, and we're looking for big things from him. But we were certainly very pleased when that came together.
Well, Duke, you put together a heck of a football team. I mean, you've got not just your quarterback, you've got players in other positions trickling around that roster that are in the top 3, top 5, in their respective position groups. I mean, you got some really good players, and like we talked about, you got a lot of depth, to go along with that. And that's what it's all about. And everybody having a role and everybody improving and then trying to expand and improve their role. I mean,
that's the exciting thing about this time of year for personnel guys is, the guys that are lower profile that you have belief in, is seeing them, compete in camp. And it's fun for us to see a guy's, career blossom. And, we've got guys that, maybe aren't household names that, can come on and show that they really belong. They'll be the next wave. There always has to be a next wave. That's just the way that this league is built. And, it's fun to see that next wave start to develop.
I'm excited to watch every wave, no question about it. I mean, I hope we're at the beach and wave are coming in, and it could very well be that way. I mean, you've done a heck of a job assembling a roster and a football team that's well put together and, physically, mentally, abstract, tangible. I mean, you pick an area, it's put together, and Duke Tobin's the big reason why. I appreciate your time, sir, as always. Thanks for carving some for us. I know it's a busy time.
It's there's always more work to be done, Lap, but it's a pleasure being on. I appreciate you having me.
Thanks so much. Have a great one, sir.
See you, brother.
Take care. Dave Lapham here, and every day I am grateful for my experience to have played professional football. As a player, I realize self-motivation, leadership, and appreciating your teammates are key. At First Star Logistics, you can use those same attributes to create the life you want for you and your family. Build your future by working hard like I did. You'll see results both on and off the field. Call First Star Logistics today and be part of our winning team.
Opportunity knocking.